All right, so welcome back. Great to all be together again. You know, I say that all the time, and I always mean it. I just can't say it enough. Oh, I appreciate everybody coming and being here. So last week we talked about something I had never mentioned before, and that was another sort of aspect or a set of helpful tips that were from Babuji, and they're called the 10 Maxims. And just to refresh, as I said last week, unlike what we might know if you're from a Christian background, we know about the 10 Commandments, which are thou shalt not. These are 10 Maxims, and these Maxims are what we should do. They're not even a should. They're a sort of a guideline for how to maximize the practice and to make it effective in our daily life. So they're really useful, and they're really in depth because, as you noticed last week, when I read the maxim, it sounds so simple and it's really straightforward. Okay, rise before dawn and get up and do your meditation. But then when I get into the explanation of what Babuji's really talking about, you found out that it was extremely deep and very scientific, that there was a real deep reason behind why we would do something like that. And all of the maxims are that way. So he's not only giving us a simple tip to maximize our evolution, but he's explaining why when we do these things, how they're related to really the primal forces of nature. That's very much what he's talking about. So, all right, so today I'm going to cover Maxim 3. And, here's the nice thing about the Maxims. You don't have to study them in any order or take them up in any order. You just take up one that you resonate with and you say, oh, let me work on that, So today's Maxim 3, and it's one of my favorite ones. Maxim 3 is, fix your goal, which should be complete oneness with God. Rest not till the ideal is achieved. I'll read it again. Fix your goal, which should be complete oneness with God. Rest not till the ideal is achieved. Okay, well, it sounds pretty simple and straightforward. The very first thing I'm going to say is that this term God, as we all know, it's not very much in favor these days. And Babuji himself actually refers to the goal or the ultimate state as in many, many different ways. In fact, he uses the word ultimate. He uses the word absolute. He uses the word God. He uses the word master. He uses many words to refer to what he's calling as the goal. So the reason that he did that, I believe, and I think I've heard Daji say this, is that people come from a lot of different backgrounds, and so there's a lot of different ways of approaching it, and some words just resonate more with certain people more than others. So this is why. But when you go in depth into his writings, sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. You're wondering, well, what was he talking about? He said the ultimate here, but then he said the absolute, and now he's saying God, and are these all the same thing? So it can get a little bit confusing. All right, now, so this idea, fix your goal, which should be complete oneness with God. Let's take that up first. I'll give you my thoughts about this, and then I'm going to read what Babuji actually explains. This idea is a little bit precarious because when we think about a spiritual goal, well, how can we know a goal if we don't know it? How can we know what it is if we've not experienced it, right? So how can we fix our goal? How is it possible to fix our goal if we don't know what our goal is? So the sort of the trick to this is that the goal itself is just an idea. It's an intention, actually. And we can say it's an ideal. So we don't have to really understand the goal. We just know that the ideal is our highest aspiration. This is what our goal actually is our highest aspiration, and what we can call it many different things. But it's an idea and it's an ideal. That's what the goal is. So I want to read now. Oh, and let me just expound on that one more little bit. So, every time we meditate, we do fix the goal, because we make the thought that there's a source of light that's already present within. We're not saying that there's some goal that's outside of ourself, or there's some goal that we haven't already achieved or that we're not a part of. No, we're saying that the source of light already within us. And what we're going to do is, instead of directing our attention outwardly through our senses, we're going to withdraw our attention inwardly, and we're going to connect with that source of that light, the source of our life, the source of lightness, whatever we want to call it, the source of subtleness, that is our essence. That's what we're connecting with. So every time we meditate like this, especially in the group, we're making the intention, and we're setting an ideal. So all those things are good to know. Now here's what Babuji talks about from the scientific perspective. He says, "It is very essential for everyone to fix his thought at the very outset upon the goal which he has to attain, so that his thought and will may pave his way up to it. It has been observed that those on the path of spirituality who did not fix that final state for their goal have definitely remained short of the mark, because before arriving at the final point, they mistook one or the other of the intermediate states to be the final point or the reality. That's another word he uses, and stopped there. Thus, they suffered merely for not having fixed their goal. Even in worldly matters, as long as a person does not keep his object in view, his efforts are never so intensified as to ensure success." Okay, so this last sentence about applying this in worldly matters, and you've heard me give this example, and you know that I'm a musician. I played guitar since I was 14 years old. And when I was 14, I did have a goal. And the goal was that I wanted to play guitar, and I wanted to play it really well. I wanted to really play it well. And that was my objective. I had fixed my goal. And I practiced, no joke, sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was my passion. I was so passionate about it. So it never seemed like practice or work to me. It was my objective, which I had fixed. And I was absolutely determined and loved everything about that objective. And as a result, at a very early age, I became pretty proficient at playing guitar. And I'll tell you another thing about that from my personal life is that I didn't have an aptitude for learning to read music. My father had started me taking guitar lessons from a really great guitar teacher. But as soon as the guitar teacher actually played the chords or played something, I knew what they were. And he was trying to teach me how to read music. And I could never relate to the little black notes on the page and the theory and the idea behind it. I had no aptitude for that whatsoever. So after about 8 lessons, I just stopped. And all I did was had to follow my own heart and practice in the way that I knew. So I would take records and, I would listen to them and I would learn the chords and I would get a couple chord books and then I would learn to play the melodies. And then I started figuring out all of the patterns on the neck, all of the scales, and how they applied all the way up the neck. And that was my own self-study. So that's an important point when we think about this idea of our own spiritual evolution. One is, okay, so we have an ideal, we know innately that we have an ideal. Okay, so and we want to be the complete version of ourselves. I mean, that's one way of putting it. And so the next part of this is that we have to find a way to do that. And how do we become the complete version of ourselves? We become that by getting rid of everything that we're not. That's how we do it. Because when we remove everything that we're not, we're left with the totality of what we are. And this is exactly the heartfulness method. And this is why I always talk about the cleaning so much, is that when we get rid of all of those impressions, those past impressions that define us, that make us act and react and think in patterns, and to have opinions and have prejudices and have likes and dislikes, when we think about all of that, we're living through those patterns all the time. So, when we fix our goal, what are we really doing? We're saying, I want to get back to that totality of me and that pure self that I really am, that pure being of light and lightness. So, now, he talked about in this paragraph how there have been plenty of people who did not fix the goal, but yet were taking up spiritual practice of one sort or another. But he goes on to say that they definitely remained short of the final mark because they mistook an experience or a certain inner condition as the final state, and thinking they had reached their goal or enlightenment or whatever word we want to call it, they stopped there. And this is sort of like having a building that's 100 stories tall and you don't know what's on any of those stories. And there's an elevator that goes from the bottom all the way to the top. And the objective is the penthouse, which, is at the top of the building, and just, above is infinite sky and space. So if we take the penthouse as our goal, what Babuji is saying is that it's possible along the way that we have a profound experience. And this might be like the doors opening at floor 3 or floor 4. And we look out on the floor and we say, oh my gosh, wow, what a beautiful thing. This is so amazing. Wow, this is beautiful. And we step out onto that floor and it's like we get lost in that, thinking that, oh, wow, this must be the penthouse. I've arrived. See, because it's possible that, we can have from time to time some real beautiful insight or beautiful, inner condition, beautiful experience. But if we hang on to it, again, it's that very clinging that is the antithesis of what we're trying to do, which is let go of everything. You see? So you can now visualize how subtle it gets when you're on the spiritual journey, when we're proceeding towards this, the infinite us, which is the unconstrained being that we are. You can see how subtle it gets, that we always have that tendency of clinging. And as soon as we cling to anything, and as soon as we make it our own, we make it mine, my idea, my thought, my truth, right? That's when ego is born. Because ego is the defender of our knowledge that we cling to, right? So this idea of fixing the goal is really important. Now I'm going to continue. It is an admitted fact that a boat cannot ply direct to the destination unless the helm is applied to it. Helm being the front of the ship is applied to going towards your destination. Treating this human form as a boat and the space it is plying in as the ocean of spirituality, it is but essential to put up the helm or direct the helm in order to be able to ply through the vast ocean successfully. In the spiritual field, the helm is our strong determination, which helps us to steer onto the destination. There may certainly be countless whirls at places, but the strength of our will and confidence helps us to overcome all of them and proceed on straight to the destination. So he uses whirls, W-H-I-R-L-S. Very often I use a variation of that, W-H-O-R-L-S, because when we think of the whirls we get caught in, whirls of thought, whirls of poor me, whirls of ideas about or influences from our past. We'll have things that come up from our past that are triggered by a current life situation that might cause us to feel, sad or depressed or angry or any number of things or revengeful or whatever it is. There's so many different things, or they can be positive things too, just as well. But these thoughts, when we think about them over and over again, we give them power and they create this whirl, that we get sucked into. And it's hard to pull ourselves out of this whirl. This is the other reason why Babuji emphasizes that, fixing the goal is so important. And this is why the daily meditation is also so important, because, it's not that we just fix our goal one time. That is a great thought, and I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to do that myself. But the mind is so powerful, and it's in such motion from the original motion that affected creation, that again and again and again, in order to get the mind to return to its natural settled state, we have to do a practice of meditation daily until a point comes when the mind settles so much that we can be in the meditative state all the time. Suddenly that becomes our new base of operations. So another reason why fixing the goal daily, having the objective, and backing that with practical application in the form of practice is essential. And that's why I just want to say, and I don't mean to be speaking for all of you because I can't, but I can only guess that you've all been coming here again and again and again and again because you actually are experiencing this. And you're seeing that, this is something when we do it together and we fix our goal regularly during the week, that it helps us so much. And we feel so good after the sittings. And for a time, we're able to maintain that centeredness. Okay, I'm going to continue with what Babuji says. Now, since our eye is fixed upon spirituality, we take up the ideal, which is the highest, and which can be nothing but that associated directly with the absolute. Thus, to reach the infinite absolute is one of the primary duties of we human beings. But so long as the goal is not fixed in one's thought, it is very difficult to complete the journey successfully. Divine help does come, no doubt, but only when the Supreme, again another word, is convinced of the devotee's earnestness of purpose. This line here is my favorite line in all of Babuji's writings. This line is that we have to convince the ultimate, the absolute, the Supreme, of our earnestness of purpose. So Babuji here beautifully gives a great tip. He said, we don't have to have perfect practice or, be perfect human beings. All we have to do is be sincere in our efforts. And then we get the divine help naturally comes to us because we're making a sincere effort. And when all that means is that we're true to ourselves. This is all it means. When we are true to ourselves, then that what we call divine help, which is the light within us, is already there helping us, because we're getting rid of all the barriers that are blocking that resource from us. So it's a subtle thing. When the reaction creates a stir in the infinite, it indicates that we have concentrated our thought in the great being. This brings to view the example of the lover and the beloved. It means that the distance between the devotee and the ideal is reduced, and the idea of remoteness begins to fade away because we start to feel the nearness, which is none other than our actual natural spiritual state. Our nearness goes on increasing up to the final limit, where the very feeling of aloofness, having merged in reality, becomes completely extinct and assumes the form of the latent motion that existed at the time of creation. In this way, our merging in the state becomes permanent and lasting. Our swimming in the infinite ocean now starts, which brings us to the real life, which comprises the influences of the ocean we are now swimming in. Okay, this is a little difficult to grasp, but basically what he's saying is that by fixing this goal again and again and again, with determination and our having an objective and willpower behind it, that we connect to that original impetus, that original will of creation. And once we do that, our journey homeward becomes complete and automatic. There's no more efforts are even necessary at that point. So it is thus clear that the firmness of will and determination to reach the goal helped us to arrive at the destination, with the result that we got firmly established in the final state. Firmly established in the final state, if we're firmly established in the final state, then what feeling might that be? Well, we feel content. There's no more questions. There's no more, what would we be looking for if we have become merged and completely attached to that completeness of ourself? There's nothing else to look for. So how we know that is questions start to dissipate and we feel a feeling of contentedness in our daily life in a very simple way. It's not a wow. It's not fireworks blasting off. It's a feeling of peacefulness and contentedness. How this most difficult problem was so easily solved by virtue of the correctness of our goal and the firmness of our determination may not now be difficult to understand. Our intention to reach the goal promoted our efforts, and since the ideal was the noblest, the interest for it went on increasing until it developed into a strong craving. Then we began to feel impatient for it. When we get into this habit, the habit of really taking strong interest in our evolution and this goal, the tendencies of the mind are diverted towards it with full vigor. Just like I wanted to play guitar, my attention was totally diverted towards that, and I was practicing, because I had that objective fixed. Thus, we come to the conclusion that for the attainment of the objective, we have to create in us a longing or extreme impatience which forces our passage onto it, just as the latent motion did at the time of creation. This is from, I hope you can see this. This book is called Complete Works of Ram Chandra, and there's like 6 volumes of these, and this is volume 1. And within this volume 1, there's 3 of Babuji's books. And this book in particular is called The 10 Maxims, and that's what I'm reading from. And it's deep, but, it's deep, but it's simple at the same time. This is the sort of the enigma of Babuji. He just seemed on the surface, to be the most simplest of spiritual guides, simplest of spiritual masters, so light and free and funny, and he would, get people laughing, and he just, but underneath his simple appearance, he had a tremendous understanding of the universe and creation and the beginning of things and who we are as human beings and why we struggle and how to solve our struggles. And that's what was his purpose for being here, was to help humanity to reach our spiritual goal of the completeness of us. All right, dear friends. So with that, I think we can meditate together today. And I just want to say, if you're new here for the very first time, first, welcome. And pardon me, I was impolite not introducing myself. I'm Brian Jones, and most everyone here is from Quora. So I thank you for being here. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do now. We're going to meditate together. It's going to be very simple. I will guide us into the meditation, which will ultimately be resting on the source of light or lightness in the heart. If you get distracted by thoughts, don't worry about that. Just very gently return back to this idea that this source of this light is already there in the heart, and just rest on it. Then we'll sit silently for about 20 minutes. And at the end of the meditation, you'll clearly hear me say, "That's all." And I will then bring us out of the meditation. On Saturdays, just want to clarify that on Saturdays today, the meditation is a little shorter. And I'll mention that during the week, Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, we have a real deep dive into the meditation practice, which is we meditate for about 45 minutes. I think the other day we meditated even 50 minutes. But to really experience what's available to us, it's great if you can also attend those sessions. And if you can't attend it due to time zone or whatever it is, just sit and meditate whenever you can. And you can even make the thought that you're just sitting with us all together. That will help. All right. I think we can get started now. So let's please sit comfortably. So I just want to add something that when we create this centered state within ourselves, that because we're all connected at the same center, that this automatically helps everyone else. The more people that connect to the center, the more it helps the whole. And you've heard me give the analogy of the bicycle wheel. In the center, there's the hub. And then we are like the spokes that have gone out from the center. And the further away the spokes have gone from the center, the further away we've gone from each other. We've become more and more individualized. So when we can turn our gaze back towards that center, we strengthen that base where we're all connected. That's the beauty of this system. Okay, so with that, just to explain to everyone what we usually do is this officially concludes this session. However, if you have the time and interest and you'd like to stay around, we take a 5-minute break now, go off camera, off microphone, and grab a cup of tea, coffee, or wheat drink, whatever that Isabel was talking about. and then we come back here in about 5-6 minutes or so, and then we can have some more casual conversation. You can ask questions or, share your thoughts. And if you do have to move on with your day, I totally get it. Thank you. Really, thanks a lot for coming today, and I look forward to seeing you again. All the best. So see you in a few minutes. And there's Gayatri. Hey, Gayatri. Hi. Hi, nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Nice to see you too. I'm feeling great.
Good. Great.
Started having Friday satsang at our place, and it's really nice, to have everyone there. And I've even been inviting a lot of my friends from school and stuff, and we all sit and meditate together. It's great.
Oh, I love it. So great. Wow, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. That's really great. So it's young people like you that are the future light of the world, and we're depending on you. So do all you can.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So 5-6 minutes, we'll be back. I'll have real coffee in hand and not this cup of water. See you then.